Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about attribute based access control, which was introduced by Hyperledger Fabric in version 1.1, that is also known as ABAC, that is ABAC. So, what is ABAC? It is basically a attribute access control mechanism which we can write at chain code level. We can write our custom business rules, restriction on users by using attribute inside our chain code. For example, there are multiple departments in a organization, and for some department you may want to restrict the data, and for some department you may not want to restrict the data. So for this type of situation you can create different users for this departments, and you can write restriction on these users inside a chain code. So how will it work? We can add some attribute to the user's identity when we register a user, and the same attribute can be found inside a chain code when user queries the chain code method. So when user queries the chain code method, we can find that particular attribute value, and based on that attribute value we can write our business logic. Now ABAC has 5 different methods. The first is get ID. It will return calling user's unique ID. The second is MSP ID, will return MSP ID. This will return get attribute value. This will return attribute value. This by using this method we can assert the attribute value, and get X509 certificate will return calling users X509 certificate. Today we're gonna implement these two method in Fabcar example. I will share the links to these documents in the description, and let's move to the example. This is Fabric samples repository, and we're gonna implement a back in Fabcar example. So I have cloned this repository, and I have removed all the other folders which are not required for ABAC. I have kept basic network, which is currently used by Fabric networks, startfabric.sh. I have kept Fabcar's chain code inside a chain code, and we're gonna implement a back into this fabcar.go method, go file. In fabcar.go there is a init ledger method, and in this method it is creating some cars. It is adding some cars to the ledger. I have added few more cars. One is a Camry, and these 3 cars, Fusion, Focus and Escape. And here is one more method, query all cars. So this method is basically returning all of these cars, and we will modify this method so it will filter this car list based on the attribute value which user certificate has. First we will add attribute to the user certificate in this register user.js, and the same attribute we will use here, and we will filter the car list based on the attribute value. So let's add the attribute here. When we register a user, I have already written the code. I'll just copy paste it here to reduce the video size. So this is the attribute array, and we can add multiple attributes here. I'm taking one attribute car make, and the value is Ford, and eCert is equal to true. So what is this eCert? When this is true, it will by default add this attribute to the user's X509 certificate. When it is false, when eCert is equal to false, then this attribute will not be added to the certificate. At, at that time, we will need to add this attribute while enrollment explicitly. I'll show you that later. Now let's use this attribute into the chain code. Now first we will add the dependency here for ABAC. So here is the dependency that we need to import. We will import one more dependency for strings operation. So this dependency is required for ABAC, which is CID. Now we will also need this vendor folder. This vendor folder contains all the required libraries for ABAC, and from where I downloaded, I got it from this folder, chaincode and ABAC Go, and this vendor folder. I have copied this vendor folder inside our Fabcar's chaincode. Now let's go to the query work all cars method. First we will implement these two methods, get attribute value and assert attribute. On the top, so here get attribute value will return three items. One is attribute value, which is car make. Second one is if the attribute is found, then this value will become true, otherwise it will be false. It will also catch the error if there is any error in this while calling this method, and we will throw the error if there is any error. After that we will print these two items, car make and make found, and then we'll check this method. After this here this assert attribute value has three parameters, API stub, car make and food. So here it is checking whether the user's car make attribute is equal to food or not. If it is not food, then it will throw the error. It will have this make error, and here we will return the error, assert error. Now here is the for loop, which is iterating all the car object. So we will write our logic to filter the car list. For that we will take one car object. Car is the type, struct type, which is declared on the top. Here is the car struct. After that we will unmarshal it. Query response is the variable which will have the current object dot value, and we will fetch the current object into obj car. After that we will print fmt.println make in obj.carMake. Now we will check if this make current car object dot make is equal to this car make, which is coming from user certificate. If it is true, then we will return that car, otherwise will not return that car to the user. If strings dot contains obj car dot make has car make, which is coming from user certificate, equal to true. Then we will put all of these lines into the if block. So this condition will filter the car list with the attribute stored inside user certificate. Now let's run the start fabric.sh. Sudo start fabric.sh and go. It has installed the chain code. Now it is instantiating the chain code. Successfully instantiated. Now let's go to JavaScript folder. Here we need to do npm install first. I have already done, so I'll not do that. Now we'll go to node enrollment. We'll enroll the admin first. Successfully enrolled. Now we'll register a user. Now it will register a user with car make equal to Ford attribute. Here user 1 is registered. Now we'll invoke. Successfully invoked. Now we will query. Now this query is done using this user 1, and user 1 has car make equal to Ford attribute, and it is filtering based on the Ford attribute. See, here it is returning Mustang, Fusion, Focus and Escape, 4 cars. Now let's change the attribute value to some other brand name. Let's take Toyota and let's keep this false. So in this case, this car make value will not be stored into the certificate because eCert is equal to false. and this attribute value will not be found inside a chain code here. This attribute will not be found here because ESERT is equal to false. Let's check this whether it is finding or not. I'll upgrade the chain code version 1.2 and we will assert this attribute with Toyota because this car make is equal to Toyota registered with the user 1 here. So let's run the network again. Sudo start fabric go. Here, because the user has attribute with ESERT is equal to false, it will not be found here in a chain code. This car make attribute will be blank, this will be false, and here it will throw this assert error. So successfully instantiated. Now let's go to JavaScript folder. Let's move the certificates which were created earlier. Node enroll admin. Node register user. Invoke. This user is registered with car make equal to Toyota and ESERT is false. Query. See, you can see the assert error, and let's check the logs. So here is the container. So you can see that car make found is equal to false and car make is blank. Here, this thing. And it is throwing error from here. Now why it is throwing error? Why it is not finding this attribute in a chain code? Because ESERT is equal to false. And when this ESERT is equal to false, at that time we need to add this attribute explicitly while enrollment. So we will add this attribute in enrollment. So we have added this attribute in enrollment, and this time it will find this attribute in a chain code. Now let's change the chain code version to T for Toyota, to T, and let's rerun the start fabric.sh. Meanwhile, I'll remove the certificates. So this time this attribute will be found here. This make found will be true. This car make will be Toyota, and here in assert it will not throw this error this time because we have added that attribute explicitly while enrollment. Now successfully instantiated. Let's go to JavaScript folder, not enroll admin, node registered user. Now this user will be registered with car make equal to Toyota, and that attribute will be found inside a chain code because we have explicitly added it while enrollment. Query. So you can see the Toyota cars. Now let's check the logs. This is the container. You can see this. Car make found is equal to true and car make is equal to Toyota. So this is how we can find the attribute inside a chain code, and we can build our logic based on our requirement. I will push this code into this repository. Here I have created one repository, Fabric ABAC, Fabcar ABAC, and I'll share the URL of this repository in the description. Thanks for watching this video, guys.